For the past 3 months, I've spent hundreds of hours investigating a phenomenon that Western journalists have called impossible. A nation once dismissed by the world as a hopeless case, the site of the 20th century's most savage genocide, has now become a source of inspiration for the entire world. What I discovered made me understand why CNN remains silent, why the BBC avoids reporting on it. Because Rwanda is proving that without billions of dollars in aid, without Western experts, a nation can still create its own miracle. And this shakes the very foundation of a mindset the West has built for decades. To understand why this is so shocking, we must go back to 1994. Rwanda was the most devastated country on earth. The 100-day genocide claimed the lives of over 1 million people. Its infrastructure was completely destroyed. 2 million people became refugees. The economy collapsed, with GDP falling by 50% in a single year. The education system was shattered, with 80% of schools destroyed. The healthcare system was non-existent, with only 12 doctors left for the entire population. The government had lost all control. There was no law, no order. International experts offered grim forecasts. The World Bank asserted Rwanda would need at least 50 years to recover. The IMF predicted the country would be forever dependent on aid. Researchers at Harvard wrote that Rwanda could never become a stable nation. The United Nations reported that Rwandan society was permanently fractured. Even the most optimistic believed it would take at least 2 generations to heal the wounds. For decades, international organizations insisted that foreign aid was the only path. They presented numbers, reports, and recommendations that seemed irrefutable. Billions of dollars in aid poured in, hundreds of NGOs intervened, and thousands of Western experts offered their advice. They were dead wrong. Until a 43-year-old man named Paul Kagame appeared and completely changed the game. Kagame was not a typical politician or a wealthy scion educated in the West. Born in 1957 to a Tutsi refugee family in Uganda, he grew up in poverty and racial discrimination. He had no prestigious university degree, no MBA from Harvard, only practical military experience and a clear vision for Rwanda's future. His most prominent trait was his ability to listen to his people and trust in the power of Rwandan tradition. His rise to power occurred in July 1994, right after the genocide ended. Kagame, leading the Rwandan Patriotic Front, achieved victory and became vice president and minister of defense. The initial reaction from the international community was deep skepticism. They saw him as just a lucky young general with no experience running a country. When Kagame took on a leadership role, his first message was simple but resolute. We will rebuild Rwanda with the hands and minds of Rwandans. We need no one but ourselves. But unlike the empty promises of past politicians, Kagame had prepared a concrete, scientific and achievable plan based on Rwanda's traditional values. Phase 1, Reviving Community Spirit, 1998 to 2002. The goal was to restore the people's belief in self-reliance and national unity. The method was to relaunch Umuganda, an ancient Rwandan community tradition, but with new meaning. The only resource was the labor of the people themselves, no external capital needed. The expected outcome was that people would gradually regain faith in themselves and their neighbors. Phase 2, Scaling Up and Increasing Efficiency, 2002 to 2009. Building on the trust formed in Phase 1, Umuganda was expanded into an organized national program. The anticipated challenge was maintaining voluntarism while scaling up, which was solved by creating a system of community self-governance. Phase 3, Institutionalization and Sustainability, 2009 to present. The long-term vision was to embed Umuganda into the DNA of Rwandan society, independent of any individual or government. The international impact was to become a model for other nations to learn from. Sustainability was ensured by linking it to the law while preserving its voluntary spirit. And the most important thing that made all the difference, It would all be done by the Rwandan people with Rwanda's resources and ingenuity. No aid from the World Bank, no loans from the IMF, no dependence on Western technology, no need for foreign experts. And then, on February 26, 2009, the miracle began. February 26, 2009 will be recorded as the day Rwanda changed forever. There were no loudspeakers urging people on, no top-down propaganda, no threats or coercion, just a simple message passed from mouth to mouth, from village to village. On the last Saturday of this month, from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., we will build Rwanda together, Umuganda, together for a common purpose. The people's response was more immediate and powerful than even Kagame could have imagined. In Kigali province, the nation's capital, an almost dreamlike scene unfolded. From 7 a.m., the streets were completely empty of vehicles. 450,000 residents left their private affairs, carrying shovels, hoes, brooms, and garbage bags out of their homes, the simplest of tools, their bare hands and their hearts. The immediate result was that the entire city was cleaned in 3 hours, cleaner than even the most developed cities in Europe. The people's spirit was ignited, everyone was smiling, everyone was speaking to each other in Kinyarwanda, no longer distinguishing between Hutu or Tutsi. In Butare province, southern Rwanda, this region was unique for having suffered the most devastating losses during the genocide. A woman named Immaculée, 34, a widow with 3 children, shared, "I thought I could never live alongside the neighbors who killed my husband. But today, as we built a bridge across the stream together, I saw in their eyes not hatred, but remorse and a desire for forgiveness." A touching detail was the children from the 2 former sides playing together while their parents worked. The initial local challenge was suspicion and fear, but it was overcome by small concrete projects that brought immediate benefits to everyone. In Musanze province, in the northern mountains, the scale of the work was much larger. 180,000 people worked together to plant 500,000 trees on eroded hillsides. This region's unique contribution was its agricultural experience and knowledge of the land. They connected with other regions by sharing saplings and planting techniques through a simple communication system. What was astounding was not just the scale or speed, but the spontaneous spirit of unity. Joseph Uwimana, 41, a welder in Kigali with 4 children, a former prisoner of war pardoned through the Gacaca courts, shared, "Before, I only worked to earn money for my children. Today is the first time in my life I've worked for free. Not because anyone forced me, but because I want my children to grow up in a better Rwanda." When I saw my whole neighborhood cleaning up trash, fixing the road, I felt like I was part of something bigger than myself. His specific action was using his welding skills to repair 12 broken school gates. His personal feeling was a sense of pride in himself for the first time after years of living with regret and shame. But Umuganda wasn't just about emotion or spirit. It was about science, organization, and operational efficiency. The distribution system operated on a bottom-up model. Each cell, an area of 50 to 100 households, decided on its priority project, then reported to the sector, district level, to coordinate resources if needed. Work was divided based on voluntarism and ability. Those with technical skills handled technical parts, the able-bodied did heavy labor, and the elderly and children supported with suitable tasks. Coordination was done using WhatsApp and mobile phones, simple but effective technology. Conflicts were resolved through meetings after each Umuganda session, where everyone could voice their opinions and find common solutions. Simple technology used included mobile phones for communication, bicycles for transport, and local radio for announcements. They maximized available resources by reusing bricks and steel from old structures and sourcing soil and stones locally. Innovation emerged from the people themselves, like inventing a type of brick from local clay or creating a simple irrigation system from recycled plastic pipes. Information was shared through a grapevine system, passed from person to person, cell to cell. Quality was ensured by a monitoring team for each project, elected by the community, not appointed from above. Measurement and tracking were done by taking before and after photos and recording simple metrics like meters of road repaired or number of trees planted. Adjustments and improvements were made through post-Umuganda discussions. What worked well was replicated, what didn't was adjusted. Transparency and accountability were demonstrated by making all project information, budgets, if any, and results public. A specific example: in the Kimisagara sector of Kigali, 850 households built a health center from scratch. Step 1, January 2009. A needs assessment and site selection during the first Umuganda. Step 2, February 2009. Clearing the site and digging the foundation. Step 3, March-April 2009. Building the walls and roof with the participation of skilled builders, while others helped transport materials. A challenge arose, a shortage of cement and steel, solved by each family contributing 2,000 Rwandan francs, about $2 at the time. Step 4, May 2009. Finishing the interior and handing it over to the Ministry of Health. The measured results: the total cost was only $1,200 instead of the $15,000 it would have cost to hire a contractor. The completion time was 4 months instead of the usual 12. The quality was rated excellent by the Ministry of Health and became a model for other projects. Rwanda's Ministry of Health later studied and found that health centers built through Umuganda had a 300% higher utilization rate than those built with aid, because the people felt a sense of ownership and pride in the facilities they built themselves. Emmanuel Ruranga, a medic at this health center, shared, "I've worked in many clinics built with aid money, but I've never seen people care so much about the cleanliness and maintenance of the facility as they do here. They treat it like their own home. Whenever something breaks, they fix it automatically without being asked. This is the difference between doing for them and doing with them." November 28, 2009 will be remembered in the history of Rwanda and perhaps the world. It was the day Umuganda was officially institutionalized as national policy, marking 9 months of successful implementation. This was the day the World Bank had to admit in an official report that Rwanda's community-led development model has produced results that far exceeded all our projections. The numbers said it all. Umuganda participation rose from 65% February 2009 to 89% November 2009 in just 9 months. The number of completed projects increased from 1,200 Q1 to 8,900 Q4. The economic value created reached $12.3 million in the first year alone, 15 times the initial forecast. Citizen satisfaction with local government increased from 34% to 78%. But the most impressive figure was not a dry statistic, but the change in the Rwandan national spirit. For the first time since the genocide, Rwandans felt proud of their country. Faith in the future was restored. The distinction between Hutu and Tutsi began to fade, replaced by a sense of, "we are Rwandans." The most observable change was how people greeted each other on the street, from cold nods to genuine smiles and the question, "What's the plan for next Umuganda?" Kagame, at the scene of Umuganda's institutionalization, his voice trembling with emotion, "I used to dream of this day, but I never imagined it would come so soon. You, the people of Rwanda, have proven that we don't need anyone to save us. We save ourselves and have become an example for the whole world. Today, Rwanda is not just rising from disaster, but is ready to lead a new model of development." But this was only the beginning of a larger revolution. Within the first 6 months of 2010, the changes were so visible, they stunned the world. Economically, Rwanda's GDP grew by 7.2% in 2009, the highest in its post-genocide history. Per capita income increased from $230, 2008, to $520, 2010. The unemployment rate fell from 13.2% to 2.8%. Domestic trade boomed, with 2,400 new small businesses established in 2009. Foreign investment increased by 340% compared to 2008, mainly in tourism and agriculture. A before and after comparison. In 2008, Rwanda needed $45 million in aid for basic infrastructure projects. In 2010, that number dropped to $12 million. The rate of self-reliance in development projects grew from 23% to 67%. Socially, people's lives changed drastically. 95% of the population had access to clean water compared to 65% in 2008. The school enrollment rate for children increased from 78% to 95%. Average life expectancy rose from 48 to 56 years. The crime rate dropped by 67% compared to 2008. Notably, the rate of ethnic conflict recurrence fell to nearly zero. Testimonials from various social strata. Vestine Uwimana, a 28-year-old farmer in Ruhango province. I used to only work my own field. Now, the whole village works together, shares techniques, and our productivity has doubled. Dr. Claude Mambo, a physician at King Faisal Hospital. I've seen a significant decrease in cases related to stress and depression. People have a clearer purpose in life. Pierre Nkurunziza, a 35-year-old entrepreneur. The investment climate has completely changed. Foreign investors used to fear instability. Now they come because they see a stable and united Rwanda. Psychologically and spiritually, the mindset shift was the most profound. From a victim needing help mentality, Rwandans transitioned to masters of their own destiny. Trust in the government rose from 31% 2008 to 82% 2010. Trust in one's neighbor increased from 28% to 74%. An observable behavior was people voluntarily participating in community activities even outside of Umuganda Day. A new culture formed, greeting each other with Umuganda Gehe, how's Umuganda, instead of traditional greetings. A specific example, Marie-Claire Mukamana, 42, a widow who sells vegetables at the Kimisagara market in Kigali. I used to just live day by day. My 3 children couldn't go to school because there was no money. My neighborhood was dirty and dangerous. Now, thanks to Umuganda, the neighborhood is clean and safe. There's a new school, and my children get a free education.